Preface. The world we know today has been shaped by the passing of time, by the ebb and flow of centuries that have quietly, yet profoundly, transformed our way of thinking, living, and dreaming. But long before the glories of modernity unfolded, there was a time when the world seemed still, bound by the heavy weight of tradition and faith, where the shadows of the past lingered over every thought, every movement. It was during this time, the waning days of the Middle Ages, that the first whispers of a new world began to stir. It was a world in which the human spirit, once bound by the strict confines of dogma and convention, began to seek its own freedom, to question, to create. And in that quiet rebellion, the seeds of the Renaissance were planted, seeds that would eventually blossom into a rebirth of art, science, and philosophy. This story is a journey into that moment, into a time of transition, of uncertainty, and of possibility. Told through the eyes of an ordinary young woman from a small village, it takes us into the heart of a world on the cusp of change. Through her eyes, we witness the stirrings of a new way of thinking, a new way of seeing the world. As the boundaries of tradition begin to unravel, she embarks on a journey of self-discovery, a journey that mirrors the larger unfolding of history itself. It is a story of awakening, not just of one person, but of an entire era. It is the tale of a world caught between the old and the new, between shadow and light, where the stirrings of the Renaissance first began to take root in the hearts of those willing to question, to dream, and to dare. And so, as you turn the pages of this story, I invite you to step into a time when the world was on the brink of transformation, a time when every step forward was both a question and an answer, both a challenge and a promise. The world was changing, and so, too, was the very soul of humanity. And in that delicate moment of rebirth, everything was possible. Chapter 1, A World Enclosed in Shadows. The world, as I know it, feels heavy. The air hangs thick with a kind of waiting silence, as though every living thing is suspended between the dying sighs of an old era and the hushed breath of something new. The light, when it does break through the clouds, is soft and muted, like a hand gently pulling back a veil. But even the sun, so far as I can see, has been reduced to a faint memory of its former brilliance. I live in a small village nestled between the green hills, where the world outside feels as distant and uncertain as the faraway stars. The streets here are narrow, winding, and cobbled, and the houses are little more than rough-hewn stones stacked upon one another, their edges softened by time. Every day feels the same, the bells tolling at dawn, the scent of fresh bread and burning wood in the air, the murmur of voices from the small chapel that sits at the heart of our village like a watchful eye. Life moves slowly, and the days, though long, seem to pass without ever truly changing. It is as though the earth itself is wrapped in a heavy cloak, and I, just a single soul among many, am waiting for something to stir, something to wake the world from its slumber. At the heart of this village, the church looms large. Its spire rises like a needle into the sky, a sharp reminder of the faith that governs every thought, every action. I can hear the echoes of its hymns through the open windows of our cottage, the voices of the villagers blending in a steady chorus of devotion. The priests, draped in their robes of somber black and gold, speak of salvation and sin, their words heavy with authority. The world outside may be uncertain, they say, but within these walls, there is clarity. Salvation is found only through faith, and our lives are but a preparation for the life beyond. Yet, even as I kneel on the stone floor, my hands pressed together in quiet prayer, there is a restlessness in my chest. It is a soft ache, but one that never seems to fade. Sometimes, when I stand by the fire and watch the flames flicker and dance, I wonder if there is more to the world than what the priests tell us. If the stars above, so distant and brilliant, hold secrets we have yet to understand. Perhaps I am alone in this, but the questions rise in my mind like whispers, barely audible, but persistent. I find myself wandering, when the day's chores are done, into the small courtyard behind our house. The air there is different. It feels fresher, as though the earth itself is breathing, alive in a way the village seems not to be. The garden, a patch of land surrounded by a low stone wall, is where I spend my moments of quiet reflection. The flowers bloom in the early summer months, their colors soft and delicate, lilacs, pale roses, and violets that tremble in the breeze. It is here, in the solitude of this place, that I feel the stirrings of something just beyond my reach. The world we live in is filled with beauty, I know this. The gold of the wheat fields in the harvest season, the way the mist rises from the river at dawn, and the scent of pine trees that grow in the forest beyond the village, all these things are part of a larger tapestry. But the tapestry feels incomplete, as though something is missing, something that we have forgotten. I have heard whispers of faraway places, cities where the light is brighter, where men speak of knowledge and learning, where the paintings on the walls are not simply of saints and angels, but of people, real, living people. They say there are great thinkers there, men who study the works of philosophers from ancient times, who question the very nature of the world. These whispers come from merchants who pass through the village, or travelers who spend a night by the fire, telling stories of their journeys. They speak of Florence, of Rome, of places filled with a vitality that our village can scarcely imagine. I listen with wide eyes, my heart quickening with a longing I cannot fully explain. But the world here is different. The world here is closed, bound by tradition and the heavy weight of what has come before. The old ways, the ways of our ancestors, have a powerful hold on us. And so we remain, with our heads bowed to the earth, our eyes turned inward, trusting in the faith that has guided us through the centuries. Still, when the night falls and the sky stretches above me like a vast, uncharted ocean, I cannot help but feel the tug of something beyond the stars. Something that calls to me, a promise of a world that is yet to come. It is faint, like the light of a distant lantern in the dark. But it is there, just out of sight, waiting to break through the shadows and into the light. I close my eyes and let the quiet wash over me. The world may be small, but I know, deep down, that it is about to grow larger, larger than I could have ever imagined. Chapter 2, Whispers of a New Dawn. The first time I heard the rumors, they came as a mere flutter, an almost imperceptible tremor, like the faintest breeze stirring the surface of a still pond. I was in the village square, helping my mother carry baskets of bread to the market when the old merchant, Hugo, leaned close to me, his voice low and trembling with excitement. "Have you heard?" he asked, his eyes darting around as if the wind might carry his words to the wrong ears. "There's talk of great cities, places where they've begun to paint the human form as it truly is. Not just saints, not just angels, but people, flesh and blood. And the scholars. They're questioning everything. The world as we know it, they say it's not what we think." I blinked, startled by the gravity in his tone. Hugo was a man of many words, but most of them were simple, stories of distant lands and the price of silk or spices. To hear him speak of questioning everything caught me off guard, as though he had spoken in a language I did not yet understand. He saw my confusion and smiled faintly. "I've seen it, child," he said softly, glancing at the priest who passed by, in Florence. "The work they're doing with paint and stone. It's as if they've rediscovered something forgotten, something from long ago." I stood there for a moment, staring at him as his words slowly sank in, unraveling a thread of curiosity that had been tugging at me for years. "Forgotten knowledge," he said. What could that possibly mean? Forgotten by whom? And who was it that dared to rediscover it? The rest of the day passed like any other, quiet, measured. But as I lay in my bed that night, with the cool air creeping in through the cracks in the walls, Hugo's words echoed in my mind. What did it mean to paint a person as they truly were, with flesh, with form? To speak of rediscovering something lost, something ancient, perhaps? The next few weeks brought more whispers, subtle at first, like a breeze that rustled the leaves just beyond hearing. Travelers, merchants, and even a few of the scholars who occasionally passed through would share brief, half-spoken words about a world changing. I began to hear them speak of the classics, the writings of ancient philosophers and poets, being revived. That strange word, humanism, began to creep into their conversations, always spoken in reverence, as if it were a secret too precious to reveal too openly. In the evenings, I would sit near the hearth, my fingers tracing the rough fabric of the chair beneath me, and listen intently. My mind, so accustomed to the steady rhythm of daily life, began to shift. There was an unsettling yet thrilling sensation that swept over me, a sense that the world as I knew it was but a thin veneer, waiting to be peeled back. What lay beneath it? What could possibly lie beyond the unspoken boundaries of this village, beyond the heavy shadow of the church? I found myself walking to the outskirts of the village more often, drawn by an invisible force. The hills beyond stretched out in a quiet, endless expanse, and it was here, in the solitary spaces where few dared to venture, that I felt closest to the pulse of the world. The wind carried with it a song, soft and murmuring, a language I couldn't quite decipher but felt in my very bones. One evening, as I walked further than usual, I came across an old man sitting by the side of the road. His face was deeply lined, his eyes pale but sharp. He was not a stranger to this place, but his presence felt different, as though he did not belong to the rhythm of the village. I sat beside him, drawn by some quiet instinct. After a while, he spoke in a voice that seemed to emerge from the earth itself. "Do you ever wonder," he asked, his gaze distant, "if we have forgotten more than we've ever learned?" I glanced at him, unsure whether he spoke in riddle or truth, but something in his question stirred the same restlessness that had been growing in me. "Forgotten what?" I asked. "Ah," he said, his lips curling into a smile that was both sad and knowing. "There was a time, child, when we understood the heavens, not as a divine mystery to be worshipped, but as a puzzle to be solved. A time when we knew the earth's secrets, how to shape it, how to mold it, how to breathe life into it. But we turned our faces upward, seeking only the heavens, forgetting the mysteries beneath our feet." His words sank deep into my heart, and for the first time, I felt the weight of something greater than just the world around me. It was as though he had revealed a hidden door, one I had never noticed before, and I stood before it now, uncertain but curious. The old man stood and walked off without another word, his figure soon swallowed by the shadows of the evening. But his question lingered in my mind, heavy and insistent. Had we, too, forgotten? Forgotten what the world could truly be, what it might look like if we dared to see it differently? The painting of the human form. The quest for knowledge. These were not fleeting thoughts, like the whispers of a dream. They were something deeper, calling me to a place where the world was not simply a thing to accept but something to explore, to understand. As I walked back to the village, the stars above seemed brighter, clearer. The night was full of promise, as if a new dawn was waiting just beyond the horizon. And though I did not yet know how to reach it, I felt a certainty within me, I would find it. There was a world beyond the one I knew, and it was waiting for me to discover it. Chapter 3, The First Brushstroke of Change. The scent of fresh paint fills the air, rich and earthy, mingling with the faint tang of damp stone as I walk into the workshop. It is a cool autumn morning, and the sunlight, still weak from the fading warmth of summer, spills through the narrow window, casting long shadows across the floor. The room is alive with color, a riot of reds, ochres, and the deep blues of the sky. I stand in awe at the sight of the canvases, some covered in half-formed shapes, others vibrant with life. It is here, in this humble place, that I meet Luca, the artist who has come to our village from Florence. His presence is almost as unexpected as the art he brings with him, this new way of seeing the world. The villagers, of course, don't understand it. To them, the paintings of saints and angels, those figures frozen in holy reverence, are what they know and love. But Luca's work is different. It's a new world, one I have only begun to glimpse in the quiet corners of my mind. Luca looks up from his canvas as I step inside. His face is young, almost boyish, but there is something about the way he holds himself, a quiet confidence, as though he carries knowledge that the rest of us are only beginning to understand. His dark eyes seem to hold the weight of many thoughts, and for a moment, he simply observes me, as if deciding whether or not to speak. Finally, he gestures to the canvas before him. "Come closer," he says, his voice gentle but firm. "See with your own eyes what the world can be." I step forward, my breath catching in my chest. The painting on the canvas is unlike anything I have ever seen, so alive, so real. It is not a saint or an angel, but a man, his features captured in vivid detail. The folds of his robe are painted with such precision that I can almost feel the fabric's weight. His face, though serene, is human, grounded in the same reality I live in. The man's eyes seem to look straight into mine, as though he is aware of my every thought, my every question. "How do you do this?" I ask, my voice barely above a whisper. Luca smiles softly. "It is not magic," he says. "It is simply seeing the world as it truly is, the light, the shadow, the flesh of it. To understand the human form, the way it moves, the way it breathes. We are all part of this earth, are we not? Why should we not paint the human body as it is?" The words hang in the air between us, filling the space with a quiet understanding. I look again at the painting, my heart racing. It is as though Luca has unlocked a door to a world I did not know existed, where people are not just symbols or saints, but real, living, breathing beings. It is a world where the human body is celebrated, not hidden in the folds of a robe or the glow of divine light. "Do you understand?" Luca asks, watching me closely. "What I am trying to show you?" I nod, though I do not fully understand. There is a stir in my chest, a flutter of excitement and confusion. What Luca speaks of is something new, something beyond the rules that have governed the world for so long. But there is also something deeply familiar about it, a truth buried beneath the surface of my own existence. The idea that we, as human beings, are worthy of being seen in our truest form, that we, too, have the right to be celebrated in the full breadth of our lives. It is a thought that both frightens and exhilarates me. As the day unfolds, Luca continues to work, his brush moving with purpose across the canvas. I watch in silence, unable to tear my eyes away from his steady, confident strokes. The way he captures the light, the way the figures begin to take shape before my very eyes, it is nothing short of miraculous. The room fills with the hum of his work, the quiet rhythm of creation, and I feel as though I am witnessing the birth of something new, something that will change the way the world is seen forever. But even as I stand there, caught in the pull of Luca's art, I know that the world outside this room is not yet ready to fully embrace it. The villagers, with their deep devotion to the old ways, would find little comfort in paintings that show people as they are, with all their flaws, their strength, their humanity. The idea of painting life, truly painting it, with all its imperfections and beauty, seems foreign to them. And yet, I cannot shake the feeling that this is just the beginning. That something is stirring, not just in this room, but in the hearts of people everywhere. Luca's art is a first brushstroke, a glimpse of something greater that is waiting to break free from the constraints of the past. As I leave the workshop that day, I step into the fading light of the evening, the air crisp with the promise of change. The world around me seems different, as though the colors have deepened, the shadows lengthened. I look up at the sky, and for the first time, I see it not as something distant and divine, but as a vast, endless canvas, a canvas that we, as human beings, are meant to fill. And though I know not where this journey will take me, I feel a quiet certainty in my heart, the world is waking up. And I am waking up with it. Chapter 4, Rebirth of the Self. The morning air is colder now, but it is not an unwelcome chill. It wraps around me like a gentle reminder that the seasons change, and with them, the world itself. I walk through the village streets with a sense of quiet anticipation, my eyes seeing things differently than before. The once familiar cobblestones beneath my feet now feel like the threshold of a world I have only begun to explore. The world outside, beyond the village, beyond the boundaries of tradition and custom, is no longer a distant dream. It is a reality, just waiting to be touched. I think often of Luca, of his painting that hangs in my mind with its vivid human form, its light and shadow dancing in my thoughts. I still don't fully understand it, not in the way that Luca does, not in the way he breathes life into every stroke of his brush. But I feel the pull of it. The pull of something more. Something that resonates with the core of who I am, something that calls me to look beyond the confines of what I've always known. In the quiet moments of the day, when the village is still and the only sounds are the soft rustling of leaves or the distant murmur of a stream, I find myself lost in contemplation. It is as though the world has opened itself up, inviting me to enter. The more I look, the more I see. The way the light falls across the fields at dawn. The way the branches of the trees sway in the wind, it is all part of the same story, part of the same rhythm. I, too, am part of this rhythm. It is not only the world that is shifting, but I am changing as well. There is a new clarity within me. The questions that once fluttered around my mind like hesitant birds now settle into something more tangible. Who am I, truly? What is my place in this world that is so much larger than I once believed? I realize now that I have been living in the shadow of something else, the shadow of faith, of tradition, of a world that tells me who I am and what I am to become. But in the quiet moments, I feel the stirrings of a deeper truth. I am more than what has been prescribed to me. I am part of this vast, beautiful world. I am not just a soul waiting for salvation. I am a being meant to create, to question, to explore. The horizon that once seemed distant now feels close enough to reach, and I find that I am no longer afraid to stretch out my hand toward it. One afternoon, as I sit by the river that runs just beyond the village, I meet an old scholar. He is not from here, I can tell by the way he dresses, his robes finer, his gait more measured, his eyes sharp and eager. He has a kind of quiet wisdom about him, the kind that is not found in books but in the spaces between words. He speaks of things that echo in my mind long after our conversation has ended. He speaks of humanism, of the old texts being reborn, of the power of the human spirit to shape the world. It is not enough to live, he says, his voice rich with a deep, quiet understanding. We must also create. We must seek the world not as we find it, but as it could be, as it should be. The human mind is a gift, one that should not be locked away in silence. As I listen to him, I feel my chest tighten with something that is neither fear nor excitement, but a mixture of both. What he says rings true in a way I cannot fully explain, but in my heart, I know it. I feel it. The world is waiting for something new. It is waiting for me to step into the light of my own understanding, to no longer hide in the shadows of old beliefs and expectations. I think of the work I have seen, the paintings, the sculptures, the ideas that have begun to take root in me. They are not just art, they are revelations. They are a celebration of humanity itself. A celebration of life, in all its complexity, its beauty, and its flaws. For so long, I have seen the world in a narrow light, defined by rules and divine dictates. But now, I see it in its full, vibrant color. I see it for what it truly is, a canvas waiting for each of us to leave our mark upon it. That evening, as the sun sets in a burst of gold and purple, I stand in the middle of the village square, my heart full. The sounds of life swirl around me, the laughter of children, the calls of the market vendors, the soft hum of voices as the village prepares for the night. And I realize, as I stand there among them, that I am no longer just a part of this place. I am a part of the larger world. I am part of the new world that is emerging, a world where I can shape my own path, where I can create and question and discover. The night comes slowly, its cool breath wrapping around me like a cloak. I look up at the sky, now darkened, and I see the stars scattered above me, each one a distant world of possibilities. I know now that I, too, am part of something vast, something beautiful, something that is just beginning to unfold. And though I do not know exactly what the future holds, I feel a quiet certainty within me. The world is not just changing, it is being reborn. And in that rebirth, I, too, am finding my own place, my own truth, my own voice. It is only the beginning, but I know that this journey, this awakening, will never end. I take a deep breath, and with it, I embrace the future. The world is waking up. And I, at last, am waking up with it.